Before we get started with the video, I would like to say happy 20th anniversary to the Animal Crossing series, since it released back in 2001 on the Nintendo 64 in Japan. But with all of that said, let's go ahead and get started. So I have some problems with the merchandise for Animal Crossing New Horizons. I feel like it's poorly executed, and whenever they have some kind of event or collaboration or something like that, it always goes horribly. And I have a few things to say about this, three different things, and the first thing is that it's extremely limited. Like, Animal Crossing New Horizons sold over 30 million copies since it's the second best-selling Nintendo Switch game, and I won't be surprised if it overtakes Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And whenever they do a crossover with like another company or something like that that make merchandise for Animal Crossing New Horizons, it always goes horribly wrong with the stock. There's always scalpers, and basically the first thing here is the most recent one. There was a Build-A-Bear collection that got sold out within a couple hours, and you had to be on a waiting line because so many people were wanting to get this product and they had such a limited supply. And they just, like, the announcement of it was really weird because they didn't show what they were even selling, and then once it came out, they just showed what they're selling and then it's immediately on sale. I mean, I guess that's a good, tactic for stopping scalpers, maybe, because they'd have to plan specifically what it is and stuff like that. But the problem is, it's just, people are probably going to buy it anyway, regardless of what it is. It's just Animal Crossing New Horizons Build-A-Bear. I know they're going to get back in stock soon, they're actually going to sell them at the stores, but that was a horribly planned event. And there's one that's even worse, the one that inspired me to make this video. The Sanrio collab amiibo cards, which was basically the English version of these, or the American and European release of these. And basically, Nintendo hyped this up for 2 months, added the New Horizons branding and everything, added a whole new update to add the villagers, but only had it in stock once, very limitedly at Target. So basically, they had a couple at each store, and what you had to do is order them online, pick them up at the store, but they still had scalpers and everything, regardless of if they were trying to stop them or not, and it just immediately went out of stock, and they've been really hard to find. The prices are going up really high on eBay, and it was basically a disaster. Like, I don't know why they couldn't just have these as a regular release. I don't know why it has to be limited or anything, because there's exclusive villagers tied with this, and you won't be able to get the villagers if you don't have the amiibo cards, because those are the only villagers currently in the game as of that update that are only unlocked through amiibo cards. And also, ironically, the Animal Crossing New Horizons Nintendo Switch was actually widely available when they said it was going to be pretty limited. So that doesn't make sense. So there's one thing that Nintendo is trying to get a lot of people to buy, like amiibo cards, and then another thing that's going to be pretty limited, like the Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch, and then one ends up having like a ton of stock, and a lot of people aren't even buying it because, like, people already have a Switch. They don't want to get another collector's Switch for 300 or however much it is, maybe 360, maybe just 300, I'm not sure. Or the people would rather just pick up these amiibo cards and they make an extremely limited quantity when they're just trying to hype it up and everything, which is really stupid. Nintendo has done this in the past many times, and I don't think they've ever learned from it. Sometimes they've learned in some situations, but sometimes they haven't. And also, Nintendo pulled all of the Animal Crossing New Horizons merch from My Nintendo. I'm not sure if they added it back up at all, but as far as I know, they completely took it off, and they barely ever restocked it when it was actually in the store for My Nintendo and everything like that. I managed to get a Animal Crossing New Horizons bandana, which is actually pretty cool, and that was one of the more widely available things to get from My Nintendo, and it's just stupid that they would just pull it after a few months. And next up is the price. So, on average, or I didn't, like, not technically on average, but for the average prices that I've been seeing for Animal Crossing New Horizons merch, it's usually a bit pricey, and it's usually more expensive than stuff like Mario merch, Zelda merch, and other Nintendo franchises. That might be due to the popularity, but there's some things where it doesn't even make sense. Like the Animal Crossing New Horizons soundtrack is $113 for a collection of a few CDs and artwork and stuff like that. $113 in 2021. I know it's an import from Japan and everything like that, but I think it costs that much in Japan too. I don't really think a soundtrack like that is worth it. I'd say maybe $60 is more appropriate for something like that. Like, I know soundtracks can be a bit pricey because they're like limited and they're a collector's item and everything like that, but over $100? That's like almost twice the price of the actual game itself. I'd say $60, like I said before, is around the perfect price for something like that. And finally, one of the worst ones, actually I wouldn't say it's worse than the extremely limited thing, maybe pretty close to that, but it's the missed potential. So, there's actually a lot of missing or requested villagers in a lot of the merchandise for Animal Crossing New Horizons, and that's disappointing to a lot of people. And one thing in specific where that's being shown is the Animal Crossing Build-A-Bear collection that only has Isabelle and Tom Nook. I heard they're going to have more villagers in the future. I hope they're villagers. I mean, I think we have enough of the special characters and everything like that. But it just seems like they're neglecting a lot of popular and interesting villagers. I know they can't, like, produce, like, 400 different plushes and stuff like that. I know Pokemon can, but that's way bigger than Animal Crossing. Actually, I'd say in the future Animal Crossing may rival it, but Pokemon, there's no doubt that it's way bigger. But Animal Crossing, I don't really think they can get away with making, like, merchandise of all of their different villagers. I'd see maybe a reasoning behind not producing, like, older ones that they've already made merch for during, like, New Leaf and the original Animal Crossing and Wild World and stuff like that. But, I mean, there's a lot of missed potential for villagers that they could have made plushes or other, like, other merchandise and different things out of. And, like, with Build-A-Bear and stuff like that, hopefully they're gonna have more villagers for that in the future. And finally, the last thing here is still a part of missed potential, but it's a pretty big missing thing. And no, the new Amiibo cards that just got released in the West don't count for this, but there's been no new Amiibo cards for Animal Crossing New Horizons. I do not know what they were thinking for this. Like, since they remade all of the older Animal Crossing cards, resold them and everything like that, and they added a ton of new villagers in Animal Crossing New Horizons, some of them being very popular, such as Raymond and some others, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, I bet Nintendo would make a lot of money if they made new Amiibo cards and stuff like that, since, like, back last year, there was, like, a whole, like, thing where people were selling, like, villagers on eBay and stuff like that for $20 or even more than that. And that's just because Nintendo didn't produce any other Amiibo cards for Animal Crossing New Horizons. And I know Nintendo hasn't been really big with Amiibo lately, though they have been with some games. Like, surprisingly, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury got amiibos, new amiibos, not just amiibo support, but Animal Crossing New Horizons got 0. And it's just weird. Like, some games that don't really push amiibo that much get more amiibo, or even any amiibo, rather than Animal Crossing New Horizons, which gets re-releases of old amiibo packs that doesn't even have the new villagers in them. That's probably the biggest example of missed potential for merchandise for Animal Crossing New Horizons. And I'm making this video because, as a Nintendo collector, it's really annoying with scalpers and stuff like that when they end up buying all of these different products and stuff like that, or like there's an extremely limited supply of something. And I feel like it's even worse than the merchandise for the Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary, because at least some of the items were actually widely available. Like the Game & Watch was actually widely available, and eventually even the pin set was widely available, only if you did all of the different activities for it. That was the second one, not the first one. The first one's a different story. That was kind of a disaster. Not as big as the Amiibo card thing, though, back in March, but yeah, anyways, that's what I have to say about the merchandise for Animal Crossing New Horizons. I just think it's, like, pretty poorly executed for how popular this game is. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye, and happy anniversary to Animal Crossing.